Talk. Okay, so let's go over what do we pitch them and how do we use the either eApp or slides. Okay, so this should be after you're done talking about the AIO Plus, and you say, you know, who do you know? Please choose that. Okay, who do you know who will receive this? Doesn't use any glasses. Maybe someone uses glasses. Blah blah blah. So after you collect the referrals on the AIO Plus, then your job always was to go from there to eApp. Okay, always. After you finish AIO Plus, you go from there to here. And then you say, okay, so this is where we're going to send the AIO Plus information. So this part you should already have because you have the lead in front of you and you send it accordingly. So all you're doing is sending it on your phone. You should already know this email. And if you don't, it's okay. You can ask him. So Smith John 337 at gmail.com. Okay. And your phone number, again, you should know. So you click it on your phone. So phone number is 909-224-2446, right? Okay, John, perfect. The address, you should know this unless it's a referral, and probably don't know this. So you should ask it. Plum Way and Rialto 7490063. Okay, great. Now, John, I want to make sure that we can also provide the health program to your wife and kids. Now, if they do have wives and kids, or just a wife and just no kid, or just a couple kids, you want to make sure you put down their information right here. If they're single, then it's only them. Now, this part right here, doing the needs analysis, in reality, like this part, all this information in reality is for who we're gonna provide life insurance to. But we're gonna make it seem like it's for the AIO Plus discount card. So I have John's name right here. All right, John, so you're gonna have access to the discount card, but we want to make sure also that your wife and kids have access to the discount card. So wife, what's your wife's name? Okay, so again, you should know that, Jasmine. Okay, Smith. So it's a flawless transition because they assume it's for the AIO Plus. Okay, so her date of birth is.
We're going to take their information because we want them to have access to the AIL Plus program.
Because remember, you're sharing this with them, so they can clearly see it says AIL Plus. So John, this is where I'm going to email you the code for the AIL Plus program, right? And this is your address. Okay, so we have it here. What's your wife's name? So that way she can use it as well. It's a simple transaction. You don't have to say anything else. Okay, your date of birth, and you have Bobby, right? Smith, January 1st, as date of birth, 2005. Okay, and then we had Dora Smith, January 1st, 2010. Okay, great. Oh, you make sure that the date of births are all correct. Okay, because I will definitely miss you. Now that everything is finished, okay, great. So we're gonna send you that AIO Plus program to this email. Just make sure that you should get it in about 3 to 5 days. Okay, all right, John.
Sure, thanks.
Great. Now that's pretty much. Now this is finishing the AIO Plus. Now comes the transition to life insurance. Okay, which on the script, let me show you. Let's pretend there's a union one.
So you haven't even asked the health question and the
no, we're not there yet. We're just finishing the AIO Plus. See, on the scripts, it tells you after you do the referral stuff, finish AIO Plus program. It does not say go into life insurance. Finish the AIO Plus program. You put down their email so you can get the username and password. Make sure the they see you filling the information to avoid any mistakes. Then you go into the needs analysis. You're going into the transition to insurance 101. Okay. Which technically speaking starts right here under needs analysis, all this information. But we're going to make it seem that this is part of the AIO Plus, so it's a flawless transition. So after you fill that out, right here, this is when the transition actually starts. Okay. So that's when the whole where it says needs analysis survey. You see where I'm sharing the script?
Yes, yeah.
That's when this actually starts. As you know, a lot of benefits we get through work go away once we leave our job or retire. So next is a needs analysis survey, which helps identify if you have any gaps in your coverage, in your current coverage. This is one of the most important. This is that's when the actual transition to insurance starts, which is right here. Okay, that's when you say, okay, we're gonna go over this, we're gonna go over that. We want to make sure that you can cover you because, as you know, it's really important to make sure you have enough money to pay for your funeral and so on and so on. Okay, have all of these questions are only in regards to the people that are in here, not their father-in-law, not their mother-in-law, only people in here. So any between both 4 of you, any internal cancer, insulin diabetes, so on, all you're doing is literally reading all these questionnaires. Okay. Aside from that, there's a couple questions that we still ask that are not in here, like have you had COVID in the last month? Okay, or were you hospitalized from COVID in the last month? And then what's another question? Oh, and there's other questions that we ask that are not in here. For example, once we get here, how much you make a month? Have you ever thought about a funeral? Do you prefer getting cremated or buried? Do you know how much that costs? If something happens to you, who will pay for your funeral? Those questions are not in here, but we have to ask that because it starts to let them think about funeral expenses. Okay. After those family member medical conditions and family member non-medical conditions question are asked, then from this point on, you have 2 options. Option 1, you finish the presentation using eApp only, or option 2, you finish the presentation using the slides. You can still see what I'm sharing the slides, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the slides start here. Family protection plan, which talks about whole life versus term, which talks about how much a funeral costs, which talks about the freedom of choice, which has all this stuff that you can plug in numbers all here. Whole life, senior graded life, term life, and so on. This is where it starts. If you're going to do the slides, but if you're not going to do the slides, then you do not move forward past this. You don't show this, you don't show this, you don't show none of that, because you're not using the slides. If you use the slides, use this, and I'm going to explain to you. So let's do a first scenario. We're going to use only the eApp. So how much you make a month? What can you make? 4,000. Jasmine makes 4,500. You guys don't have life insurance through work. How much life insurance you currently have through work? How much life insurance you currently have outside of work? Write it down here. Write your own. Change the savings. Submit. Submit it again. So the first example, we're gonna do the eApp only. Okay, once I press submit, it's gonna load. Don't press it again, or else the computer will crash. Just let it load.
So we're done with the slides at this point.
We're done with the slides. The last
There's no insurance
slide,
premium term versus life. Gotcha.
nope. The last slide that was shown was this. There's no going into all of this. Nope. If you're not going to use the slides. So this is pretending we're not going to use the slides. We're going to use the eApp. This is the last slide they're going to see. From here, they only see the eApp part. From this point on, it's only eApp, which everyone who's watching this should already know, because this is the only way you could have passed checkout. You did not pass checkout using the slides to do the selling part. You did pass checkout using eApp. Okay. So everyone is super familiar with this. So after I press submit, then it tells me a summary. The summary tells me what to expect. So I'm expecting that they're going to recommend primary, which is John, final expenses, FE, 30,000, whole life. IP income protection, 240,000 is a 5 years worth of his income. and C, college education for the kids and spouse and so on and so on. Okay.
At this point, you've unshared and
No,
they're
no,
just
no.
seeing you.
No. I'm sharing. From this point, it's
Okay.
all sharing. Oh, I put 10,000. Yeah. So we were here before.
Mhm.
After this, we go to the we finish the AIO plus. All this from this point on, they're all sharing. All sharing is this. They see all of this. I'm sharing this. I'm sharing the information I put in here. I'm going straight into the insurance 101, which talk about all this. This is all being shared. Put in here.
Yes.
I press submit. I know what it's gonna recommend. Why does he keep doing that?
Yeah, because I got in the habit of once I press submit, I unshare for a minute or two until
Nope,
I
you
go
should
back to it.
because it's because you go into the slides and it's like you got to choose one or the other. Okay, so let this load one more time. There you go. So now it's right. So when we're talking with the client, we're not going over this. Okay, but we know now what to expect based on this.
Right.
Now we press continue.
So you take note of that every time.
It's a mental note. We don't have to know because we're going to see it. We're going to see it. So we don't write it down. We don't take mental note. It's just there. Okay. Now, do you see the dear member, the insurance program being offered today? Do you see that?
Mhm.
This is a very generic read-off letter that the computer comes out with. If it is a union appointment, then the union already have their own read-off letter. So go ahead and read it and then make sure you summarize it at the end. So pretty much, John, what this means is we're gonna make sure we go over some benefits. Some of them are optional. Some of them you're gonna see that it's gonna really help your family out. All we want you to do today is just make a decision. Either a yes, you want this, it's gonna help your family out, or no, they're not gonna help you. Regardless of what it is, we need you to make a decision today. And fairness to all the union members waiting to be seen. Something like that. And you're still sharing. You're still sharing. All right. So the first major gap that needs analysis found has to do with your final expenses. Let me ask you, John, who's gonna pay your final expenses? God forbid you pass away. Your wife? Does she know this? This is where you do the intro, review, tie down. So on the script, there you go.
IRT.
Final expenses. IRT. Intro. The first one has to do with the cost of funeral expenses. Have you ever had to pay for funeral before? Income protection. IRT. Okay. So you got some the introduction. Okay. You skip the video. Then you review it. All right, John. So it recommends $30,000 of to cover your funeral because of inflation. You currently any existing coverage you have zero, so you need 30,000, and 30,000 is the amount that we're gonna recommend for you. Does that make sense? Great. For you, Jasmine, same thing. We recommend 30,000 because of inflation. You currently have in zero, so you need 30,000. So that's what. Does that make sense? Great. So right there, you're on the recap.
And
You
haven't mentioned whole life at all.
No, we do not talk about whole life in term. We do not talk about whole life in term if you're using the needs the eApp, because eApp does not talk about whole life in term. The eApp talks about final expenses. Okay, you see, final expenses. We're talking about final expenses. It is a whole life program, but there's no reason to get into that because people rephrase the final expenses because at the end of the day, it will cover the final expenses. People understand the word final expenses. People do not understand the word whole life unless we explain it. But we're not here to explain it unless we go the other route, which is slides. Okay. Here they understand final expenses because they're funeral expenses. People know that language. People don't know the life insurance language. You do because you're an agent. They're not agents. Okay. So no whole life return because we're using the eApp. All right. So, and then we do the tie down. Does that all that make sense? Why does it make sense, John? Why do you think this is important? Okay, great. And then you go continue and you do the same thing for income protection. You introduce it, you recap it, you tie it down. What does it make sense? Okay, great. then ADB for college education for kids.
Parents, you hope to
Skip it, you review it, and you tie it down. Great. Remember, all this is still being shared. There's no unsharing. Great. And then you press continue. And then here, you're not done. You have to press next benefit until you see the riders and you see 2 premiums. So you press next benefit, continue. Now I see the riders and I see 2 premiums. Okay, from there we do the L closing. So as the script has it, so to recap, we have your final expense incur, blah, 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 blah. So our write application, trying to say, yeah. So to recap, John, we have your final expenditure incur, we have your income protected, children's education is still protected. Company also gives you additional benefits. The first additional benefit is a child rider. It means all your children are covered for $10,000 until the age of 21. They also give you a terminal illness rider, which means if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, meaning you have less than 12 months to live, we're going to advance 50% of your coverage right away. You also get a layoff waiver, which means if you get laid off from your job, we're going to waive the premiums for up to 3 months. You also get a strike waiver, which means if you go on strike, we can waive the premiums for up to 12 weeks. Okay. Now, if it all makes sense, as of today, you're taking an important step to properly cover to make sure we protect all of your coverage or all of your assets. The company is giving you 2 different options to choose from. Option A has you and Jasmine's final expenses at $30,000 right here, and that's this green option right here, $388.58. Option 2 has you and Jasmine at $20,000, which is the gray one right here, and the option is right here at the bottom, the gray one, $345. They all include everything else. So based on these 2 options, which one do you guys want to start with first?
I think the
You guys think about
30,000.
it? Too expensive for you? I understand how you feel, Bill. A lot of families have felt the same way. After talking it over, we came up to it was price. Is that what it is when it's too expensive?
Yeah.
Okay, like in that case, we have this other option. Let me show you this. I'm gonna click non-inflation. It's $15,000 of your final expenses for both you and Jasmine. And that one still includes the income protection for both of you, the college education for your kids, and the additional benefits. They're all included in there. And that's only $324. Is that more affordable for you?
No, it's not even that much difference.
I get you. So in that case, let's do 10,000. 10,000 is still a good amount. 10,000 will definitely take care of a cremation services. You might have to, get some money from a funeral, but cremation services for sure. Well, we do 10,000 for both you and Jasmine. You still get the income protection. You still get the education because I'm pretty sure that's important to you, and the additional benefits. So for that comes down to 302. Is that more reasonable? Is that something you can do?
Yeah.
Okay. So assume you say no. Then we drop it down to 5,000. Okay. Is that reasonable? Let's say you say no. Let's do 5 years. Let's do instead of 5 years, let's do 3 years of their income. Okay. The point when you're dropping it down, you never say we're gonna remove this, we're gonna move that, we're gonna make this lower. No, you don't use those negative words. Notice how when we drop it down to 5,000, okay, 10,000, that's really good. That's still enough to take care of cremation services, and you still get this, you still get that. That's too much. Okay, in that case, let's do this. Let's do 3 years of your income. That's also good. And make sure at least they have 3 years to protect your income. That's only 187. You never say, okay, so we're not gonna protect you for 250. We're gonna reduce it. Don't use the word. We're gonna reduce it. We're gonna subtract.
I think you said we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it 5,000.
We're gonna still do this, and it's still gonna do this, and it's still gonna protect your family, and you still get this. Okay, we want to use positive words. Once they choose an option, you press submit, and you go into the super combo, and that's it. Questions? Pretty simple. Now you all should learn this already. You all should know this because this is literally the only way you can pass checkout.
Right.
Okay. After you pass checkout, we tell you that you can continue to pitch this way, which is, it works. I did this for 3 years and I made a lot of money with it. It works. But now because of Zoom, we have an option to do it through a slide, which you're more than welcome to use, or you can stick this way. You can stick to the app because it works. But because of Zoom, we now developed the slides, which also works. So at the end of the day, it's whatever is more comfortable to you. Okay. So in the slides, now we can use all this. If you're going to go this second route. Okay. So we're going to go back to the return to survey. Same thing. I'm going to fill out the AIO Plus program. I'm going to put their information here, and they're going to assume that it's for the AIO Plus. I'm going to ask them all these medical questions and non-medical question. And that's it. I only share this part. Okay. This part here at the bottom, I don't share. I still have to fill it out because the computer won't let me move past forward that. I still have to fill it out, but I don't share it. Okay. So I still put an income. I always put like 2,000. It doesn't really matter what you put because we're gonna tell the computer manually at the end, we're gonna put how much it's gonna have for the clients. Press submit. I always put 2,000 for everyone, no matter what. Okay. At this point, I'm not sharing this money information. Okay. So I'm still filling it out, but I'm not sharing it.
So you've literally stopped share on Zoom.
Stop share. At this point, I'm asking the questions, getting into insurance, the transition. Hey, so I don't know if you ever guys thought about it, but if something, God forbid, ends up happening to you, do you prefer getting cremated or natural burial? Cremated, natural burial. Okay. Do you know how much that costs? Okay. Have anyone in your family passed away that you had to help out with? They have. How much was the funeral? Oh wow, it's a lot of money. What did you guys have to do? Car wash? Damn, that's pretty tough, huh? How did it and the family end up paying for everything? They had to take out a loan? That is crazy. Wow, that's not not a good thing. You know, funerals are very expensive. So let me ask you, do you guys have any funeral plots purchased? Any cremation services purchased? Who's gonna pay for the funeral if something happens to you? Worst case scenario, both you and your wife pass away. Who's gonna take care of your kids? You know, you start thinking about that's when CPR comes into play. CPR, which we'll have another video on CPR. Exposing the need and making it worse and then giving them a remedy. Okay, so listen, we want to make sure I can protect you, make sure that we have everything covered for your funerals. At least you pay for a funeral. Nothing to make anyone rich, but at least you pay for the funeral. But we also want to give you some living benefits. Let me ask you, one thing that we want to do is in case you get hurt, in case you get into an accident and you go to the hospital, we want to protect your income. We want to reimburse what you would have made that day. So let me ask you, how much are you making a day? John?
200.
200? Okay. John, you make $200 a day. Jasmine?
150.
150. Okay. So now I'm gonna pitch them an A71. I gotta make sure the A71 is not below what they make in a day. So I cannot pitch them an A71 100 unit because the 100 unit pays $100 per day that they're confined to the hospital. I can pitch them a 200 unit because it's $200 that they get paid if they're confined to the hospital due to an accident, which she makes 200. But the difference from 200 to 300 to 400 is dollars. So I'm gonna do them a favor. I'm either gonna pitch them 300, 400, or 500. That's up to me. If that were me, I would pitch them the highest one, 500. Okay. So pretend this is non-shareable. So I'm talking to you. I'm not sharing my screen. So again, pretend that I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sharing my screen for the purpose of you guys to know what's going on behind the screens. Okay. So I'm still talking to them without sharing my screen because I just want to get from here all the way to where I can mess around with the numbers. At this point, I'm asking them questions. So have you paid for the funeral? No. Okay. All the questions I just asked you, I'm asking them as I'm moving forward with this. I'm press no here. Okay. Because it shouldn't take you, it shouldn't be hard to ask questions and just press continue, continue, continue. Okay. And if it is,
Practice.
you got to practice. Okay. So all I'm asking questions and I'm still moving forward. All they see is just my face. From here, I can then do whatever I want. I want to remove income protection. recalculate. I can mess around with how much insurance I want to give him. Oh, inflation, 35,000. The reason I'm doing this, I just want to get the price. Okay. Now, how much are you going to pitch them? Well, that's very easy. You don't even have to think, because guess what? How much to offer is registered right here, depending on the age and depending if you're single or a couple. Eventually, you're going to get so used to this that you don't even have to refer to this.
Show me again where you got that from, where you pulled it up from.
It's under presentations.
Mhm.
And it's right there. How much to
Yeah.
offer.
All right.
Okay. So you should print it out. But eventually you're gonna not even look at this anymore, because they're all very simple. 60, 120, 150, 60, 120, 160, 60 to 120, 150, 35, 60, 120. It all has to do with the brackets you're in. So the
Mhm.
bracket is something we already talked about. It's on the product knowledge 2022 version. Okay. So for this example, I forgot what date of birth I put in here, but let's pretend that they're a couple and that they're 31-year-old. So now I know that I'm gonna pitch them a 35,000 whole life, 60,000, and a 120. Okay, so then I go to the needs analysis here, and I get the price for 35,000, waiver premium, a 71 for the whole family, primary, spouse, and child. Add it. It's right here. But per premium detail, 500 units is $22. That's a little too pricey for my comfortable for me. Let's see. Remember, the minimum is 200 because he makes $200 a day.
Right.
That's $9. Let me see what 300 is. $13. So this is when you do your own decision. This is your own decision. Either I can pitch him 200 or 300. 300 is 13. 500 is 22. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pitch him 300 because I don't want the A71 to be too expensive. Okay, so I'm gonna pitch him 300 unit A71. All right. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I decided that because I looked up the price.
Yeah, it defaults to 500, but you just go to the drop down and you make it 300 and never do
So
less than
now,
the 200.
because they are between the ages of 30, they're 31. The first option will be 35,000 of whole life. So I have 35, 871. Altogether, the price is 159. So on a separate piece of paper, I'm gonna write 35,000 for both of them plus the A71 and the kids and the child rider. That equals $159.10. So I'm gonna round up to the nearest dollar. So that's $160. Okay.
You're literally writing this down on a notepad.
Yes, and then the second option prefer is 60,000. So then I'm gonna put and change into 60,000. 60,000. Recalculate, everything stays the same. Now I know that 60,000 is 225, but we'll round up to the nearest dollar to $226. Now you should all know this because you watched the product knowledge video. If I want to get 120,000, 120,000 is under the select life. So I can't just put it here because it won't give me 120,000 because it's a select life insurance. See how it drops down to 119? It's not really 427. For that, I have to go to the super combo. So I'm gonna press submit. Only press submit if you're trying to get a quote over 120,000. Or 120,000, which is a select life, which you all should know about because it's under the product knowledge video. So now I go here and I press select life, the box, and I put 120,000 with TRR plus waiver premium. Same thing for the wife, select life, 120,000. TRR waiver premium altogether comes to 349 plus 23 cents. Remember, there's a one-time policy fee. So remove that mentally. So 349 plus 23 cents minus $5 is 344 plus 23 cents, rounded up to nearest dollar, so it's 345. So 120,000 is $345. We're still on the same page?
And the $5 doesn't apply to, it only applies to the A71 or other
Yes.
A&H products?
Yes, all the A&H products.
Okay,
Okay, and you all should know this isn't the product knowledge.
yes.
Okay, now that I got the prices on the union slide or whatever slide, I have not talked about this yet. I have not discussed this with the client yet. And remember, I'm still unsure. All I'm talking about is, have you thought about the funeral? Anyone has purchased away? Wow, anyone that passed away. And then after that, I might say, okay, give me just 1 minute. I gotta put this all in the system to see what it recommends for you. And all I'm doing in the background, I'm deciding if it's a family, if it's a no kids, if maybe I'm pitching them no kids and no A&H or just straight whole life insurance. I get to decide what I want. So there's a family plan. I am pitching them whole life, A71, all this. So I'm doing is typing in the numbers. Okay, 35,000 for both of them. I know now. How much was that?
You look at your notes.
Well, 160 exactly. The one after that is 60,000, which is 226. The one that's 120,000, which is 345. Char rider right here, A71. I'm doing 300 units, so it's 30,000 and 6,000 for the kids. You guys should all know this. 60,000, 12,000 for the kid. 9,000. Hospital confinement is 300 units. 300 for hospital confinement. $600 for ICU, and up to 150 for reimbursement. Okay,
So while you're doing this, they're just looking at your face.
correct. And sometimes I'm even either talking to them, asking them a question, or I'm telling them, just give me like a minute while I do this, and they'll wait for you. Hospital confinement, this is the H34 plan. I have it here, but if you wish not to provide them H34, which I mostly don't, and a lot of people don't, you just highlight it, and you go to the text color, and you make it white. Oh, sorry. So you highlight it again. Not the whole thing, or it's gonna highlight everything. But just and if you do that, just reverse it. Okay, so you just highlight it, make it white, and it's gone. And if you ever want to show an H34, you highlight it again, change it to blue. See, most of the time it's gonna be always white. And then I have the waiver premium. Now I have all this in here, and you know where we got it from.
Right.
We got it from the needs analysis and the select life. If we show select life, we got it from here, right?
Yep.
Now, once this is all finished and done, we got the prices, everything. Now the fun begins. Now you share it with them. All right, so let's talk about life insurance. Let me show we can get this. And you put start presentation. Now you share with them, and now is when you go through the whole thing. So blah blah blah. And this is life insurance, has to do with age and criminal records. We got 12 hours solo life. Now you go through all of this, and this is how much funeral costs. It's very expensive. So we're gonna give you a freedom of choice, which helps pay for the funeral within 48 hours. All right, great. So look, we want to protect you. We also want to recommend living benefits, protection, and whole life. Like you mentioned, like you decided you wanted whole life. So the basic plan, we recommend 35,000, prefer 60,000, executive 120,000, with child rider protect your children, accidental death benefit, any this is you explained all this as you're going through it. Income protection, you explained all this. All right, so does all this make sense? Yes. Do you have any other questions? Everything makes sense? Great. So this is how much it's going to be. 160 for 35, this and this. Which one of this makes more sense to you? Which one do you want to start with? Do you get it?
Yep.
Yep. And if they pick the basic plan, 35,000, Now I gotta make sure my eApp matches that. So I left it on this. So obviously they didn't pick this, it's picked 35,000. So I'm just gonna put prefer 35,000, prefer 35,000. Terminal illness. Now I gotta make sure this matches that. There we go. And it's 157 minus a $5 fee, so it's 152 plus run it to the nearest dollar. It should be 153. 35, 152, 153. Oh, look, I made a mistake. I'm per 160. 35, waiver premium. Oh, see, I made a mistake on the East analysis. It wasn't 160. I don't know what I read. Oh, that's because I had it at 500 units, I believe. So 300 unit, 157 minus $5 policy fee is 152. Run it up to the nearest dollar is 153. So there you go. This is a good mistake because it's 153. So I'm like, oh, actually, it's not 160, it's 153. I'm like, oh, even better. Okay, so now that I picked that one, I just share this part and then continue with the from here.
Super combo.
Super combo. And that's it. Please, guys.
Okay, and if they want to go below 35,000,
then you just show them 35,000. You go to annotate and you put a text message. Or you can even, so you, instead of doing presentation, which you're here, you can edit it from this page, but you can start presentation and you could just type in the numbers there. If they want to go below that, I'm like, okay, let's do 20,000 and then get the price of 20,000 and write it there. That's simple.
Okay, and then you have to recalculate in the eApp so that you can come up with whatever the premium is below the 153 that's there.
Yep. To recalculate on the eApp, it should take you seconds.
Yeah.
It shouldn't take you more than a minute because all you got to do is just change the numbers. Go to whole life, 20 days, term. Okay, perfect. Now keep in mind that
this. They're just sorry.
So keep in mind that this whole life, this is a main one because it's a family plan, assuming they have kids. But you have other options. No kids, no age, and all you do is just move them. So it's flawlessly after this one. Now let's say I want to do a senior life. I go to senior and I drag it up so it can be the next slide right after the freedom of choice. Okay. Questions?
Yeah, the whole time you're messing about changing it, let's say you get to the part where even the 35,000, even 153 is a little pricey. So you're gonna go and take it down to 15. So you this is the share that you leave up there. You go to the eApp, but they're still looking at this.
Correct. So if you're gonna drop it down, you still leave it up here. And the background, they don't know what I'm doing all the calculations right here.
Right. They're still looking at the slide.
Exactly. Okay. But you have to practice or else it's going to take you a long time. People are going to be like, oh, hurry up. Okay. Questions?
I don't think so.
Perfect.
What I'm getting there is pretty much the eApp, you're covering the same information as those slides that you didn't use. But the only difference is you're doing it in the eApp.
Correct. So there's two ways. Either use the eApp to tell the pitching part, and you continue using the eApp. The eApp does not talk about whole life. The eApp does not talk about term. It talks about final expenses. It talks about income protection. It talks about cost education. It talks about those. So you leave it like that. You do not use the slides and talk about term and then combine them together. No, because you're only going to confuse the plan. But if you want to use the slides, then you forget about final expenses, income protection, and you just continue using the slides. But we got to get numbers somewhere. So we use the eApp to get the numbers and we implement it in the slides. Okay.
Okay. So that at that point, you're also going over, it'll show one coverage, one benefit first, then you explain that. And then you go and it shows another benefit.
What are you talking about? The eApp or the slides?
The eApp, yes, the eApp.
Yeah,
Going back to presenting in the eApp.
yeah, the eApp, you have to show one benefit at a time because you gotta do entry review tie down, entry down, IRT. Remember, everyone knows
Right.
about it. You gotta check out.
So that's why they come up one at a time on
Yeah.
the actual thing. Okay,
That's you gotta learn that first, which you should already know because you wouldn't be here because you gotta pass checkout.
no, you're right.
Okay.
But I was going all the way to the end and then going over the coverages. They're all shown together. That's where I was first reviewing them with them. But you're saying, you know, when the final expenses slide comes up, you talk about final expenses. Okay,
All right,
that sounds
Bill, I'm
obvious.
recording. Thanks for joining me.